Hey, what's up guys? This is Jaden here, and in this video, I will be teaching you the 5 checks you must do for your website. Okay, in this SEO business video, you will learn the 5 most important checks you need to do for your website. Now, you have to do these 5 checks even before you start any sort of marketing campaign, because these 5 checks is very, very important for you to have a successful marketing campaign, be it a SEO campaign or any sort of marketing campaign like Facebook ads and YouTube ads, right? So this is just an example from Cloudflare that shows how website performs with conversion rate. As you can see over here, conversion rate is increased by 2% after the website's load time improve. Now, this is just one of the factors. I'm going to be showing you 5, which is super important right now. And if you do not do these 5 checks, if you start to do any sort of marketing campaign for your website, it's going to be a waste of money. It's going to be a waste of your resources. Okay, so you do not want to do that. Now, I'll be going through things like doing a site speed cross check. So it's not your usual like site speed test. And also to get your, one of the checks that we will go through is called a mobile plus S responsive check. And I also walk you through some live examples so you can follow along when we are doing this check, okay? Now, the first check that we will be going to do, right, is called the mobile plus S responsive check, right? Essentially, it's called mobiles responsive check, not mobile, but mobiles. Now, why do you want to do this? It's because Google has implemented this thing called mobile first indexing best practices, right? Where Google predominantly uses the mobile version of the content, which means to say they will be crawling your website from a mobile perspective, from a mobile standpoint first. So you want to make sure that your website is mobile responsive. Now, I've seen a lot of websites that I work with that don't have, that is not mobile responsive, and it's just going to be a pain in the ass for them, because whatever they are doing, whatever website they are targeting, or whatever traffic they are driving their audience to, is not going to be user friendly for their audience, for their traffic, and hence it's going to be it's just a waste of resource, right? So you do not want to do that. And also at the same time, this is the article from Forbes. It just shows that, you know, if your website is mobile responsive, if you have a mobile responsive website, it provides a seamless user experience, you know, increased traffic from mobile users, blah, blah, blah. And a responsive website improves your SEO efforts. Okay, so you want to make sure before you do anything else, before you want to start on any campaigns, make sure to check if your if your website is mobile responsive, and not just mobile responsive, mobiles responsive. Notice the S. Okay, so let me show you an example, right? So I've got this site loaded here. Okay. And okay, let's just pick this site. Okay, I have no idea what this site is about, but basically, if you go to a site like that, okay, how you want to check for mobile responsive is all you do. Okay, this will show you whether a website is mobile responsive or not. I will walk you through the steps later on, but I just want to give you an example. Okay, so in this case, it seems like this site is mobile responsive. Okay, let me show you another example. So that is a good example. Now let's go and take a look at this site. Oh wait, is this the same site? Let me just find, okay, let's check out this one. So I just randomly pulled out like some of the bad websites just to show you a few examples. And if your website is like that, it's a big issue, right? You want to fix this first before moving on to anything else. So let me see whether can I find an example for you. Okay, this seems to be. Okay, this seems to be working. Now let me see whether can I find you. Oh, come on. These are, well, okay websites in this case. Let me see. But yeah, so look, found one. So look, this is not a mobile responsive website, right? You see, like the site is not optimized. The alphabets are not like it's unreadable text over here. And yeah, let's go to some of the other pages. I just want to give you another example of how a bad mobile responsive website is like. Okay, if you see your website is like that, it's okay. But the moment when you select and the moment you can scroll, that means your website will need to take a left to right. I really want to find a good example to show you guys here. Okay, let's open this up. Okay, this is fine. They've changed their website already. Come on, there's one particular example I really want to show you guys. And let's see. There. Oh, wait, no. No, this is fine. I can't right click on this website. Okay, I'm going to try two more. And if it doesn't have the example I want to show you guys, then I'm just going to skip it. This is okay. This is okay. Okay, the example that I wanted to show you guys is firstly, if you see your website is something like that, this is not mobile optimized, right? Imagine you running advertisements to your website and your traffic is landing on your page on a mobile and your visitors are looking at your website. This is not going to convert at all, right? So this is the first example. The second example is if you do this check, which I'm going to walk you through later. If you find that you can scroll left to right, right? If you're right now, I can only scroll up and down, as you can see over here, right? You can see the little search, the little scroll bar on the right hand side. Okay, it's only allowing me to scroll up and down. But if your website is allowing you to scroll left to right on the mobile device, okay, that is not a good mobile optimized website, okay, because by right, your website on the mobile device should not be able to scroll left to right, okay, it should only be able to scroll up and down, like in this case, right? I really want to show you an example of this, but I can't find it. Okay, so you want to do these two checks, okay, so how do you do the checks? Okay, very simple. All you have to do is go to your website. Okay, in this case, let me pull up a random niche generator and say I'm a website that sells candle lanterns. Okay, so assuming I'm gonna pick an average website if I can find one. Let's see, which company should we be today? Let us, is this don't think this is a legit company. Let's see. Come on, give me a company that sells candle lanterns. Okay, so let's say this is our website. Okay, so let's say this is our website. So you should do the same for your website. So when you go to your website, all you have to do is just right click and go to inspect. Okay, the moment you go to inspect, it will pull up mobile versions on how your website will look like on a mobile device. So in this case, this is on Galaxy S5, and you just want to scroll through and just do a quick check to see whether, firstly, is it readable? Is your text readable? Is the formatting right? Is the design, does the design look okay? And can you scroll from left to right? Right, in this case, I can only scroll up to down. Okay, and then you don't just want to do for this Galaxy S5. So what you want to do is you want to make sure, just do a quick scan of all the devices over here. Because sometimes when your web designer does or develop your website, sometimes their settings are set to a certain mobile device, but not for the rest. So you want to make sure that your web design is responsive, and it's not just responsive for one mobile type. You want to make sure it's responsive for all the mobile types, right? Because not everybody is using iPhone, not everybody is using iPhone X, not everybody is using iPhone 6. You want to make sure that your web design covers all the mobile devices. Okay, so you just want to go through like what I'm doing now and just make sure that everything looks fine, everything looks okay on even the iPads and iPad Pro. So in this case, if you see like your website is like that, everything is good to go. Okay, so that is the first check that you want to do. Make sure that it's mobile responsive. Okay, now if you are lazy and you don't want to do this manual check, which I highly recommend you to do, but if not, you can go to this mobile friendly test by Google. So all you do is go to Google, search mobile responsive test, Google. Okay, and then on the first mobile friendly test, just click it, and then you just include your website in it. Okay, let me go to my website again. Okay, I'm just gonna go to a random website. I want to make sure that I'm not diving too long on one topic. So just copy your URL and then just copy in and just paste. And this will do a test for that particular URL that you put in, right? But I would highly recommend you do the inspect method, which I showed you earlier, because it's more accurate. Because sometimes when Google runs this kind of test, it might show that the results are fine, but when you get a person to go on to your website via a mobile device, sometimes the results are not very consistent. So what I like to do is I like to do the inspect test manually, right? So if you don't want to do that, you can always go to this URL and then just plug in your website, and this will show you whether it's just a pass or fail test. So this is the first test you want to do. Okay, so it's taking some time for it to analyze, but yeah. So next, yeah, so there you go. Page is mobile friendly. The page is easy to use. Now, if you find that your website is not mobile friendly, okay, what you want to do is you want to bring your site back to the web designer or the web developer and get your web developer to make sure that it's mobile responsive across all the mobile devices. Okay, so that's the first check. Now, moving on to the second check. Okay, the second check is to get your call to action above the first fold check. Okay, so CTA stands for call to action. Now, if you do not know what a call to action is, a call to action is essentially a button, right? Which is asking for an action, right? Hence, call to action. You want the user to do something, either to most of the time is to click on it, right? So, what is a call to action button? Show you a random example again using this candle lanterns. Okay. Okay, a call to action button basically looks something like gonna go to the homepage, something like this, right? So it's a very clear button that triggers the visitor to want to take an action. And in this case, the action is shop now and use the code, right, to save more. So that is the call to action. Now, this second check, what you want to do and why you want to do this check is because, firstly, we will answer, is it okay for you to have a call to action below the first fold. Okay, so what is the first fold? The first fold is when you land on a website, the first screen that you see, right? This screen that you see, this is the first fold, all right? And then if you scroll down, that is like the second and the third and basically the rest of your website, right? But whenever you land on the page, right, before you even scroll the page, this is the first fold, okay? So is it okay if your website doesn't have a call to action on the first fold? Yes, it is perfectly okay, right? Because you can have your call to action at the end of the fold, at the end of the website, or at any other pages. It's fine, okay? Then why should you have it on the first fold? Why should you have your website? Why should you have your call to action on the first fold? And the reason why is because only 20% of people read below the first fold. Okay, that means whenever a person lands on your website, only 20% of people will continue to browse through your website. Okay, now what does this mean? This means that unless you are really good at writing your website copy, unless you're really good at writing the content on your website to make people scroll down your website even more, then it's recommended that you have your call to action above the first fold. Okay, ultimately you can have you can have multiple call to actions, right? But if you are not good at writing copy, or you're not writing copy is not your expertise, I would highly recommend you put your call to action on the first fold, because on the first fold is where all your traffic will land on first, and that's the first thing that they see, and you want to capture their attention and you want to trigger them to do something at that exact moment, right? So that is the reason why we recommend you to have your call to action on above the first fold. And how do you check? Very simple. All you do is go to your web page and then just look to see whether do you have like a clear call to action button, right? I'm going to show you some of the example, like all the big brands use. I'm going to use my personal favorite brands just to show you an example. Right, so Apple have a first fold here, right? Learn more, right? This is a clear call to action. There's only one clickable like call to action here, for example. And then for Nike, okay, for Nike you can see shop here. Okay, essentially this is not within the first fold, but ideally you want to have a call to action right on the first fold here. Okay, so these are just a few examples. Okay, so that's all you have to do to check. Our recommendation for a first fold is you can either have it in the middle or towards the top right hand side. Okay, either in the middle or towards the top right hand side. I'm going to show you a few more examples. So this is IKEA, and you can see here, get tips. Okay, this is just a cookie, but you can see here, get tips, right? And then the next one, let's go to the home page. In this case, they don't have it. Now, you do not need to have it. Not all websites have it. It's just a good practice, right? So in this case, their first fold, their call to action is somewhere here, and then they have just multiple banners, multiple sections across with a direct call to action for every banner, right? Look, right? Even though they have multiple banners, which is not loading well for me, at least, they have a clear call to action, right? So that is a good practice for you to have. So if your website do not have a call to action on the first fold, we highly recommend you to get one. Okay, so that is the second check. Now the third check is called a site speed cross check. Now essentially what this is you want to check for your website speed, but you do not just want to check on one platform. Okay, now the reason why you want to check for your website speed is because this is a article by Cloudflare, which is a CDN provider. So what they analyze is across the board, if your website speed, the higher it gets, the lower it converts. It converts. Okay, that means the higher your speed is, the lower the customers you're gonna get. So this is like 2.4 seconds, and then they have a 1.9 conversion rate. And as the seconds grow, the conversion rate lowers. Okay, so website speed is the first impression that your website is gonna make, right? The website speed is the first impression that you're gonna make to your customers. Okay, so if you want a good impression, you have to make sure that your website is loading at an acceptable speed. So now, how to check for your website speed? Okay, very simple. There's three different there's three different website that I would highly recommend you to check on. This is what we do most of the time. We do not just want to check on one URL. So what you do is go to GT Matrix. Okay, I'm gonna close this, and I'm going to, oops, I close my code. Let's just say, for example, we are Pier 1. Okay, so open up gtmatrix.com, just plug in your URL and test. Okay, and then do it for the same for developers. Okay, this is a page speed insights from Google. So similarly, plug in your URL and then do the same for webpagetest.org. Now, the reason why you want to do a test across three or two websites is because you do not just want to trust the data from just one platform. You want to get an average of the data that is provided from three different platforms, so that you have a better understanding of where your page speed is. Because sometimes if you just rely on just one platform, if the platform has some data screw ups and stuff like that, then the data is not going to be, you'll be optimizing your website on the wrong set of data. So what I like to do as a good practice is just to make sure that, you know, I check across all these different pages. So essentially what GT Matrix is going to show you is the page loaded time, and then your page speed score, and then, you know, the page speed size, how big is this is this page. And then what you can do is you can kind of see where your page speed loaded time is, and then there's a bunch of recommendations that you can do. So you can either do it yourself if you know the ins and outs. If not, then you can outsource this to your web developer or somebody that is good at optimizing website speed. So this is the first test. And then the second test you want to go on to is just to check to see if your score over here, this is by Google Page Speed Insights. Essentially, it's a score of 1 out of 100. The higher, the better. So in this case, it's showing a 92 on mobile. Oh, of course it's 92 because I'm doing a page speed test for page speed, right? So, and then this, at the same time, this is also from web page test. You can just do a check to see the time. So essentially all these are going to give you different times because there's too many different variations, but you can get a rough understanding of, you know, what your page is loading at, what speed your page is loading at. And then you can kind of gauge based on this average, right? So on average, I would say if this is my website, on average, my website will be around 5 seconds. Okay, and this is for mobile, so it's giving me a 15 out of 100. And then again, all the other opportunities I can do to lower my speed, and then I can check for my desktop, so it's loading better on my desktop, right? So this is how you can check how fast is your loading speed for your website. Okay, so in this case, I would say my website is probably between like a 5-second range mark for it to load. Okay, now how do you gauge? How do you have a rough gauge of the standard of the speed you should have? Okay, a rough guideline would be generally speed below 8 seconds will be good to go. Okay, because every industry, every website have their own different industry standards when it comes to speed loading time. So you, for general speed, you want to make sure it's below 8 seconds. Okay, so that's a line that you can opt for. Of course, you can always optimize it. You know, optimization always means putting your website at the best place possible. So in this case, the lower website speed, the faster it is, the better it is. Okay, but generally anything below 8 seconds is good. Okay, so on to the next one. Now, the next one is a very, very important one, which is Google Analytics check. And I cannot stress how many times I've worked with companies or with websites that they don't have Google Analytics set up. And you want to get this set up as soon as possible. I've seen websites that have run for like years without Google Analytics set up. So please make sure to get your analytics set up. Why? I'll share with you the reason why. Now, imagine you running marketing for your website, right? Imagine you running any sort of marketing, be it search engine optimization, be it Facebook advertisements, be it YouTube advertisements, whatever advertisement it is, you are driving traffic to your website. Now, if you start a marketing campaign, or if you start, publishing posts on your website, you start publishing content, you start any sort of advertisements, your website will be in the dark. Why? Because you do not know whether is your website getting any sort of traffic. You do not know how many people are coming to your website. You do not have any sort of data to work with. So essentially, you have nothing. You have no data to work with, right? And imagine if you're running advertisements. Imagine if you're planning to run advertisements and stuff like that. And imagine if you have a website for years and you do not have analytics set up. You have no clue where your data is coming from and where all these, does your website even have visitors, because you don't have the data that is needed. So with Google Analytics set up, you can know where your traffic is coming from, and are they coming from Facebook? Are they coming from Google? Are they coming from YouTube? Or are they coming from other websites? You can know the demographics of your traffic. Are they guys or are they girls? Their age, their devices they are coming from, and stuff like that. So this is crucial for you to implement before any sort of marketing campaign, or the moment you set up your website. You want to make sure you have Google Analytics set up. Okay, I cannot stress how important this is. Now, how do you check for a Google Analytics setup? So first, very simple. All you do is, if this is your website, all you do is just right click, go to page source. Okay, and this is where all the pages, where all the codes on your page are. So if you have Google Analytics set up, the code should be within here. So all you have to do is just hold Control F. So this is a search. Okay, and you want to search for either these three words. Okay, so either search for g.tag. So I'm going to go back to the page source, g.tag. Okay, so it will return you a result of whether it has or doesn't. So if in this case, if it doesn't show for any results, then go back to the second one, which is Google, right? So just search for Google. Okay, and in this case, you can see all the different type of Google related stuff will come up. Okay, and you want to look to see whether do you have like Google Analytics set up. So in this case, it shows that it does. Right, they even have Google Tag Manager set up. Okay, there you go, Google Analytics. Right, you can see here Google Analytics. Right, if not, you can also search for analytics and you will more or less show up. Right, if your website doesn't have this, okay, not to worry. If this is too confusing for you, not to worry. All you have to do is just sign into Google Analytics. So just go to, so I'm going to close this. Okay, just go to Google Analytics. Okay, all you do is just, if you don't have an account, create a account and then just sign in to your Google Analytics account. And you can see here, you can see under your analytics account, under all website data, you can see whether do you have an account set up. Okay, if you do not have an account set up, get it set up as soon as possible, because you will need this data. Okay, so that is how you check to see if you have Google Analytics, right? So on to the final check. The final check is also a very important one, which is your Google Search Console check. Okay, again, I've seen a lot of websites that do not have Google Search Console check. Now, if Google Analytics works like eyeballs for your website to see where the traffic is coming from, Google Search Console works like ears for your website. Because if you do not have Google Search Console set up, you do not know where your website is showing up for. You cannot hear all the noises that people are making about your website, right? Because you will not know whether is your website getting impressions. You will not know whether is your website showing up. Essentially, your website is deaf, right? You can't hear any sort of data that others are talking about you. Okay, so once you get Google Search Console set up, you will know whether is your website getting mentioned across which countries, across which region, whether are they mentioned on mobile or whether is it on desktop, and what kind of keywords is your website showing up, and you can have you can monitor your progress on how much or how many people are actually mentioning your website and how popular your website is across Google, right? So I cannot stress how important this is. And how do you check? Okay, so this is very simple. All you have to do is just go to Google Search Console, and then under Google Search Console, if you have an account, just sign into your account. If you do not have an account, just start now and then create an account. And then under the account, you can see over here, under the property, whether do you have your property inside your Google Search Console. If you do not have a Google Search Console account, or you do not have a website under your property, all you have to do is just add a property and then search online for all sorts of Google Search Console tutorials. I'm not going to go into that because that can be way too long for a check. Okay, so this is how you do a check across all 5 stages. So once you have gotten all these 5 stages checked, okay, now your website have eyes. Your website know where the data is coming from. Your website have speed. That means people will not drop off from your site. They will enjoy browsing through your site. Your website will know where all the impressions, all your impressions are coming from, whether it's your website brand, whether it's your business or brand making any noise on any sort of platforms on Google. And your website will be optimized for both mobile, desktop, and you'll also have a clear call to action to capture your website's traffic, right? So essentially, this is the 5 key important factors you need to know for your business if you are doing SEO for business, okay? I cannot stress how important this is. Now, that is all for the 5 checks. If you feel that you've learned something good over here, feel free to, not feel free, but drop us a like, we appreciate it. Thank you. And then if you would like additional videos like this, or you would like to watch live SEO examples, we usually stream them from time to time. Just subscribe to our channel. And if you'd like to have SEO services done for you, you can visit our website at trev.com. And last but not least, over to you. We want to know, out of these 5 factors, out of these 5 checklists that we have given you, which one would you be using it first? Will you be using Google Analytics? Will you be checking your site speed first, or will you be checking your mobile responsiveness? Let us know in the comment section down below. We'd really like to hear what you want to try out first. And with that, thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video.